Coin traders, what is going on? Going to be looking at Bitcoin Cash BCH on that ticker, kind of like the rest of the crypto space right now, with a very nice, massive, bullish candle on the weekly chart. So we're going to talk about that specifically a little bit more in the video and show today. So specifically what we are looking at right now when we talk about this candle, and also specifically for the weekly chart right now for Bitcoin Cash, is that we have an extremely big resistance point for the weekly in terms of a close that we actually haven't been above in quite some time. And that actually happened before the big FTX flush back in November. So price for that was 117.19. So as you can see, it's been big closing resistance for just weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. So that's why we have had all these big upper wicks, and yet no candles were able to successfully close above that. And in addition, so you can just see that we've had minimal bodies, huge flushes, minimal bodies, huge flushes, small bodies, and then another flush, finally holding that higher low with a little bit of that follow through, and now getting very nice bullish upside. So the next thing that I want to talk about in terms of this weekly chart is that let's go ahead and look at just the 12-period EMA. So first, I do want to close out the 26 and 50, which you can't even see right now, and basically just talk about noticing how this is a perfect resistance line to the downside that we've held ever since. And let's actually scrunch this up, because the last time we actually had prices above this was actually back in April of last year. So going on almost a year, so about 3/4 of a year or so. So the fact that right now we're actually seeing prices get above that in that long, another very good sign that likely we're going to start to change the trend, especially after finding our low and our bottom, pulling back, setting a higher low now, and then knocking out the previous trend high to make that new higher high. So we have a new trend going on the weekly. We have a new higher high. We have a break in big previous resistance. And also now we do have a very nice break of the 12-period EMA. Now, granted, we do have 3 days left on the current weekly candle. So it is still possible technically to completely reverse and actually still maintain this as a big point of closing resistance. But truthfully, I don't think there's a shot about that happening, or it is extremely, extremely low. So especially since we have prices just getting so extended over, so we're about 15% over the EMA right now, so not really looking favorable. So overhead, we actually are getting stuck up at about 125 right now. So as you can see, the previous trend actually got above that. Price for that was 126.02, so just barely, but nonetheless. So ideally now, if we do top out and see this as a big resistance point right now at 125, we would be looking to essentially trade sideways, have a little bit inside bars. Ideally, we'd be maintaining support on top of 120 and, 117, but ultimately would like to see a break and a close above 120. That's our next big resistance zone. So for that, I actually want to flip over now into the 2-day chart, because we do like the 2-day chart. And as you can see, once again, got the 12-period up, but let's go ahead and turn the 26 and the 50 on as well. So the next thing that I want to talk about on this chart as well is that we're actually seeing the candle on the current 2-day be the first time that we've had a break above the 50-period EMA in probably just about the same amount of time. In fact, so since the April move before flushing. So again, another big sign of strength, especially since this range is getting super tight. And that if we want to look to at forming another falling wedge, which we've talked about before, we can see that we're getting our very nice confirmation of that happening now. So big point, falling wedge, and a very, very nice break right now with a little bit of that follow through. And so even looking at the volume as well, huge volume now on the current 2-day candle. So very good sign, a lot of follow through, a very nice bull break. So things are starting to shape up very nice overall. And then if we actually want to look at these EMAs a little bit more, we are going to be getting a little bit more of that confirmation, especially now after breaking bullish on top of the 50. So going to look for a nice bullish confirmation overall, with the 12 sitting on top, the 26, and then the 50 on bottom, ideally running back, testing these as support, as well as finding support on previous price levels for that were acting as resistance. Now, I did want to flip into the 1-day chart, because specifically I want to talk about some technical indicators, the first being the RSI, or Relative Strength Index. So right now you can see the current RSI is sitting at 77.3, but if we zoom out, then a few things to notice. So first of all, every single time the RSI got close to the 70 line and basically got a little bit overbought, then we saw a quick retracement, and that's when we did see prices pull back as well. So the fact that now we're actually seeing such a big rally above the 70 line, we haven't seen the RSI this big since back during the main bull cycle in August of 21 when we were coming off of those summer lows and aiming for some of those fall highs and all-time highs. But prior to that, the next time that we saw this overextended was actually when we did see the most recent trend high back in May of 21 for Bitcoin Cash. So those are definitely signs and signals to be looking out for. I do think that the crypto space is due for a little bit of a break, especially after about 2 weeks since the start of the year of just nothing but rallies and upside. So we do have the potential of a very nice pullback, but ultimately we would be wanting to establish supports and actually establish current higher lows in confirming that as being changing the trend. Otherwise, if we do get a complete flush, then that's a different story. But right now we are still riding on a lot of that CPI data. That does mean a lot of money is going to start coming into the markets, but it's just whether or not it can sustain, especially since we have now had a very nice upside rally for quite some time. So now turning on the VPVR volume profile visible range right now, showing the big points of mass on different price ranges. So you can see that we're pretty much just above the peak right now for mass for volume. So that's pretty much coming in right at 118 or just shy of it, about 117.50. So that is going to be a big point we're going to have to look out for. And that's another reason why ideally we'd like to sit and establish this level as a higher low and see that come in as a very nice longer term support. So the good news is that since we are technically over the main chunk of mass, then we can see that actually based on volume, we're starting to taper off, which means we're going to get a little bit more path to the upside following that trend and seeing a little bit higher highs. So for that, we could even be targeting up as high as about 160. That would be a very nice upside target for a continued breakout right now. But then on top of that, the next target would actually be just above 140, probably about 144. So did flip over into the log scale right now because I want to draw a very important trend line that we're looking at that has been set since the previous trend high back in the spring of 21 back in May. So as you can see, we had the high, we had a trend bounce off of this, another rejection. So now actually zooming in on the current candle, a very nice break if we can in fact hold it and get a little bit of a back test, confirm some lower supports, back test this trend line and then be back on our way. That's probably the most bullish case scenario that we could be looking at and experiencing. But yeah, on this log chart, definitely a good sign to be testing and breaking above such a big, important trend line that's been in effect for over a year and a half. So yeah, we got a lot of great things looking for the longer term, but still in the short term, we are going to need to see a little bit of a coolback, pullback, establish those previous resistances as supports, and then make sure that we're not going to end up dropping to a lower low, allow the bulls to cool down and then regain their strength to see a little bit more of that follow through. That is going to be the plan and what we are expecting. So yeah, with that, that is going to go ahead and wrap up the show for today in our update on Bitcoin Cash. Let me know your comments, thoughts, all that stuff down below in the comment sections. Do love getting back to everyone. Do appreciate you staying with me for the length of the show. And if you did enjoy the show today, please hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe if you haven't done so just yet. Do appreciate all the continued love and support. As always, means so much. Stay safe, take care, and I'll catch you back in the next video.